talking, hey, what's on your mind? She's on the inside, she got the scoop on the ones to watch, on the ones that's hot. No one can do it quite like Caroline.
Hey y'all, it's Caroline Hobby and welcome to my show, Get Real from the Music City, capital of the world. In each episode, I get the real story from the most inspiring, interesting people in Nashville, Tennessee. I have done everything in the music entertainment industry. I was in the trio Stealing Angels with 2 top 50 country charting songs, a finalist and runner-up on season 22 and season 24 of The Amazing Race. You can currently catch me on CMT's hit show, I Love Kelly Pickler. I am an entertainment news correspondent and host for the TV show Nashville Insider, and my podcast, Get Real with Caroline Hobby, was featured on iTunes' New and Noteworthy and charted on iTunes' Top 200 podcast. I'm also married to the smoking hot front man, Michael Hobby, of the #1 chart-topping band, 1,000 Horses. So buckle up and get ready to get real with me, Caroline Hobby. Welcome to my show. Hey, Tom. Luteran.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Caro.
Hello. So, you're kind of a big deal. Not just a big deal in like the music industry, but you're actually really tall.
Yes.
Like you're just like a big deal in life.
78 inches worth.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'6".
Do you think you're the tallest person in the music industry?
There are a couple people taller than me.
Who's taller than you?
Charles Kelly is taller than me.
How tall is he?
He's at least an inch taller than me.
Really?
Yeah, he's taller than me, and I know Daryl Worley's taller than me also.
Oh yeah,
They're
he's
the
a tall
two.
drink of water.
Other than that, I don't know of anybody else.
Have y'all started like a music or a basketball team?
We should. We need to.
That would be really smart.
Yes. I think yes.
Big
yes.
fundraiser. Could
Yes.
draw a lot of crowd.
I don't know. Maybe back in the day. Not now. I'm a little long on the tooth now, but.
But you're in great shape. You went on a big health kick, didn't you?
I did. I went on a health kick, trying to stay in shape for my kids.
Yeah, that's smart.
Staying young
and kind.
And kind, yes.
Did you feel great?
I feel great. I go to the gym 5 days, 6 days a week. I love it.
Oh, what do you do at the gym?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah. Are you like a CrossFitter? Are you a yoga
cross
person?
training?
Okay.
Not a big CrossFitter fan, but a cross training fan. Tabata, timed workouts,
Okay.
heart rate, all that stuff.
Go
Seems to work. Yes.
Tom. Tom is in the house.
Although I've eaten a lot of junk over the Christmas break.
You have to over the holidays. If
Yes.
you don't, you're not human.
Yes. I'll be ready for Speedo season by April.
Okay, so here we are in your office at Sony Music Publishing, one of the biggest publishing organizations really in the world, right? When you say?
The biggest, yes.
Okay, the biggest, and you are pretty much running this joint. Give us your title.
I'm a spoke in the wheel here, but I
What's
love
your title?
being-
Official title?
My official title is Vice President of Creative. I love working here. We were purchased in 2012, July of 12, when I worked at EMI. EMI was purchased by Sony, so I've been here 5.5 years.
So what is your job description like? And tell me what you do on a daily basis. What is a publishing company in general? Because people are always like, oh, I need a publishing deal. Songwriters like, I need a publishing deal, or you get paid by writing songs. But then there's this whole world of publishing, and it's like, what is that?
So to take it one bit at a time, my duties as a song plugger is a generic term for everybody that works at a publisher is a song plugger. Our job is basically, the best way to think about it is a sales position. The only thing that's not like a sales position is we sell something that's not tangible. Everything else, we have to set our meetings, try to, hawk our wares. We have to go out and match the songs with the correct artist, correct music user, and we have all the duties. We get 99 no's just like a salesperson does. And so basically we are the agents for songs and songwriters and songwriter artists.
How do you match a song with the right artist? How does that process go down? Because I think people would be surprised to realize how many ways there are to get a song recorded by an artist. And then not just getting it recorded on a CD or an album, but getting it to a single. That is a miracle.
Single, yes. A cut is a miracle. A single is even whatever is higher up the food chain than a miracle. But it is really difficult. It's never been easy. It's not like saying back in the 2000s it was easier. It's always been difficult. It still remains difficult. Best songs win, and we just try to make sure that we're putting ourselves in position to have our best songs meet the correct artist, and hopefully it'll be a magical match of 3-Minute Miracle to put them to a different level in their career, and we're all very happy with that.
So my question is, because you and I have been around Music Row for a long time, there are so many talented people that live here that are working waitressing jobs or waiter jobs or valets or doing all these things, and they're really talented and they have this great ability to write songs and sing. But sometimes, do you feel like the best singers and songwriters actually don't get discovered? Or do you think that if you really have the talent, you will eventually get noticed?
Well, it's been a lot of stuff that I'm going to say to you is just basically an experienced opinion, because the music business is all shades of gray. There's no black and white.
That is
and
true.
There are times where the best singers are not the ones who are the biggest stars, but there are times where the best singers are the biggest stars. So there's a little bit of both. There's a lot of times where the best songs never see the light of day, but there's other times when you hear Tom Douglas do House That Built Me and you realize one of the greatest songs ever saw the light of day.
Got Miranda cut that and made it Song of the Year.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of gray area where there are times where sometimes songs, depending on why they're great. Songs can be great for a lot of reasons. They don't always have to be, gut-wrenching, heartfelt songs. They can be fun, 3 minutes of just escape fun too.
Mm-hmm. What makes a great song to you? Like, what are the different levels of great for you with a song?
I'm under the reason I think I've been able to last so long in this business is that I actually like country music. I like commercial country music. I like music that is played on the radio. I like to hear songs that the masses like, and I think that's helped me be able to match the songs up with artists, because that's the way I listen, and that's the way. And there are other people that don't listen that way, and they're able to get songs out there sometimes that aren't quite as commercial and maybe a little more art, which is fine, but it's just not me.
So, being at Sony, having this job that you have, you are in a big way, a dream maker, because you can go out and sign an artist to write for you that you believe in and change that person's life and say, like, okay, you have what it takes. I'm going to put money up behind you, bring you into my company and support you, pitch your songs, try to get you cuts because I think you have it. What is it? When you see it, because it's all different.
Mm-hmm.
It's like loving a child. You can't love them for the same reasons because it truly is this intangible thing. But what do you need to experience to want to sign someone?
There's been a few seminal moments in my career, luckily, that I've been able to sit down in a room with somebody for the first time. And probably for me personally, the person that moved the needle the most in terms of not only just pure talent, songwriting talent, charisma, and the whole package is Jamie Johnson. When another songwriter that I worked with at EMI brought him to me, we sat down and he flipped up a laptop in the middle of the room. I still remember he's playing these songs, and I was like, oh my God, listen to his voice and this guy, and just never saw the end. His talent never ends. The guy is just basically he didn't know it at the time, and I didn't know at the time, but he's headed toward legendary status because of everything he can do. So that was a moment in my career that I'm lucky that I was part of.
So say there's someone who has a voice like Jamie Johnson and who writes all these original songs. Maybe no one's like Jamie Johnson, but say there's someone who just has all this talent, but they're just working down at Tootsie's. They don't have any momentum behind them yet. They don't have any hype. They don't have any buzz. They haven't gotten, because this thing happens in Nashville. When someone starts getting a little bit of buzz, I don't really know how it happens. How does someone start getting buzz?
The buzz is basically when somebody gets the correct team around them.
How do they get that first team member, though?
They win somebody over with their talent, either their vocal or their songwriting or their charisma or the whole package.
Do you think someone needs to have a champion before other people are going to start listening? Listening to him? Do you think some sort of buzz has to have started before the rest of the industry is going to dive in?
In my experienced opinion, yes. It does. The building experience. It might not have to be that way, but it more than not definitely is that way.
So someone who has been in the industry for a while, who has some credibility, needs to lock onto someone and be like, okay, I see you, I'm going to champion you?
I get calls and emails a lot for people that say, hey, I've got a new songwriter, I've got a new artist or whatever. And honestly, based on who they are, I probably start to form an opinion already for someone who's brought me somebody in the past that maybe has successes, or someone who maybe brought me somebody who wasn't. So I kind of, in a minute, you think that way, but every person is different. Every person, you never know. You know, just an example, I'm only right sometimes too, like everybody in this business. One of my writers was walking upstairs about 2 years ago with a songwriter, and he's like, man, this guy's great, and blah, blah, blah. And he comes in here and he plays me a song. Our writer plays this guy's song, who's not a writer, and he goes, man, I want to cut this and put it out. And I was like, well, we don't really need a song like that on you now. And it turns out to be Hurricane. And the guy walking in the building is Luke Combs, who has come out of the box like a house of fire, like a hurricane. He is unbelievable. So
you don't always get him. You don't always get him.
I, for whatever reason, didn't. And but you know, I don't think anybody's right every time, but you just have to try to use your experience and base it on what you know and what you think could work down the road.
But I also think with that not everyone has the same taste either, you know? And so with all the different publishing companies on Music Row and all the different outlets for creative people to get a team behind them, I don't think it's like dating or marriage. You're not supposed to match with everyone. Like maybe Luke
Correct.
was supposed to be a match with someone else. It just wasn't meant for y'all to be a match, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Ironically, it is my kind of music personally, but for whatever reason. But you're right. There are artists that are successful on the radio right this second that I still probably wouldn't work with, just because we're just different.
Right.
Not that I can't work with someone different. I do, but I would rather work with someone who we align a little bit, you know, similar in certain places. It doesn't have to be 100%, but it needs to be a certain amount of it.
What are the things that really make you tick as a publisher? Like what really
Honestly,
gets you excited?
First and foremost, of course, is talent. But then past all that, there's red flags and there's white flags. The white flags are people that don't have a plan B. I never want to hear a plan B.
Like
if you got a plan B,
you're out.
You won't make it because it's so hard, and it's a 10-year town, like everybody knows.
Break that down.
A 10-year town is basically just a euphemism for it doesn't happen overnight. Most people, it takes several years, up to 10 years. It could take, you know, to get any successes going or things like that. So.
Yeah, people think they're going to move to town and just get discovered and get a record deal. And even if you do that, the process of getting out still takes forever.
Correct. It takes a long time to have something come to light. So so you can't have a plan B because it's going to be hard. You're going to get kicked in the teeth a few times, and you're not going to get things are going to very rarely do things work like Luke Combs, who came out of the box with back-to-back number ones.
Right.
But that's not the norm. The norm is to have a time or two, a struggle or two, then all of a sudden 3-minute miracle, and then the whole world knows your name.
Yes. So.
And some of the red flags are
the
work ethic and the plan B and just some things like that where you need to know that the person is going to run through a brick wall to do what they got to do, because if
you don't want it more than they. You don't need to want it more than they need to want it.
Correct. And I've seen it both ways, and I don't want it the other way. Now, I don't want someone that won't do whatever it takes.
So, I love that you're talking about. Like, they have to want it more. Have you seen some people who are so talented but just kind of almost entitled to their talent and just think it should be given to them, and then in a way they miss their opportunity because of their ego?
Absolutely.
Because I kind of wanted to talk to you about ego, because you have seen I think you need to believe in yourself, and you need to think you're great. You do to make it in this business in all areas, not just artists, but like even you and your job. Like, you need to know that you're great and that you're good, that you can do this. But how can the ego help you and hurt you in this business from what you have seen with artists and just it getting in the way, but then also being an asset?
I think you're right. Everything you just said is exactly right. With an artist, with a writer-artist, or even a writer, a certain amount of ego or cockiness, or whatever you want to call it, or self-confidence, you've got to have, because if you're a mealy wallflower, it'll come across and you might miss an opportunity that could be the opportunity. You never know when the right person's going to cross your path, whether they're a producer, a co-writer, someone at a record label, or whatever, that's going to change your trajectory as an artist or as a writer. So you got to show up every day ready to go. You got to show up with the right amount of ammunition in terms of whether it's your singing, whether it's your writing, or whatever. So if you take a day off, or if you lay down on the job one day, it could be the day that you missed out on something. You never know, and you never know when it's the right person until it happens.
And that's why
kind of like meeting a spouse or a long-term boyfriend or girlfriend.
That's why this industry is sort of like magic in a way, because you never know when you're going to get that that combustion that just happens, that takes off. So
when we were working, when I worked with Ben Vaughn over at EMI.
He's the head publisher over at, is it Warner, EMI, all that?
He is now the head of Warner Chappell, but at the time we worked together at EMI, and I can remember there being a conversation about, we signed an artist who had a comeback record deal on B&A Records, and the record deal kind of fizzled out, and basically we talked about, do we want to convert him from an artist structured type of a publishing deal to a writer deal where they kind of write songs, and we all thought about the talent was great, but honestly, the thing that pushed us all over the edge was he was a great guy. We loved being around this guy. We loved hanging around him, and that was enough to get everything going. And then his talent took off, and we're talking about Rhett Akins. He just basically, he's had an 8 or 9 year run here that would marvel anybody in history. You know, to have his amount of success in such a condensed period of time will marvel any writer that's ever come down the pike.
And then his offspring is Thomas Rhett on top of it.
His offspring is Thomas Rhett, and I got to give credit to Ben Vaughn. He came in one day, and we're standing like in the hallway, and Ben was talking to him about what he was going to do, and he was talking about laying carpet or laying flooring all summer. And he said, "How much
Thomas Rhett was going to?"
Thomas Rhett was in the summer, between school, and he said he was going to do flooring or carpeting or something like that. And Ben said, "Well, how much do you need a month?" And he said a number, and it was a very small number. And he said, "Why don't you write songs?" And Thomas was like, "Well, I've written a few." And he goes, "Well, just write songs. Let's see how it works out." And holy crow, you talk about a whirlwind. Now he's one of the biggest stars in our format.
It is amazing how it all happens. And I really love doing these kind of interviews, because I think it's so important for people to realize there is no formula. There is there's all these things in place that help and they make it happen, but it's never the same twice. It really is never the same twice. Why is that?
Whether it's the jobs behind the scenes, whether you're in publishing or management or booking or publicity or whatever, touring, whatever aspect of the business you're in, nobody gets their job the same way. I didn't get my job the same way as anybody I work with, and I don't know. They don't advertise. You can't open up the paper and look for a job saying, "Oh, looking for someone in music publishing." You'll never see that.
Yeah, you kind of have to just fall into it. Tell me the number one to work in the music industry as long as you have, and to get to such a high-ranking position in such a huge company. What is the one asset that you've had or character trait that has carried you through, that has served you the best in this industry as far as like moving up and having success for yourself?
Well, I want to think. I want to think that it's a combination. I want to think that it's my ability to spot a hit song, along with, I feel like I've got the personality that most people like. A few people don't like it.
You do.
But
everyone loves Big Tom.
Almost everyone, not everyone, but I feel like I'm able to connect with a lot of different people. I feel like I'm able to. We've talked about this a lot because everybody's from different parts of the country, and I'm from the country music hotbed of New Jersey. But if you go 15 or 20 miles outside of any big city, anywhere in America, it's loaded with country music loving redneck people. Whether you're in Pittsburgh, whether you're in Albuquerque, whether you're in Dallas or Augusta, Georgia, it doesn't matter. It's the same people. Mm-hmm. So I think that I'm able to relate to those people because that's the people I grew up with.
So you've never lost that, and you know what makes what music they love because it's the music you loved because you grew up with it.
All you have to do if you want to see what people love is go to a hit country music show's act. The one I've been to the most would be Luke Bryan's, and to see the people lose their mind over his songs, you will get it.
You know what they like.
It will help. If you need an education in country music, go to a Luke Bryan show, and you'll get a master's degree in country music.
What do country music fans like? What kind of songs do they like the most?
They like to sing along. They like to sing along about things they can relate to. They like to have fun. A few of them like to drink every now and again.
Oh, just a few.
I mean, it's all about, to me, it's singing about, singing about stuff they want to hear about, and then also putting themselves in that position. You hear songs and you say, yeah, that's me. I can relate to that. I've done that, or whatever.
They want to feel like it's they're speaking to them.
And this is just the bulk of songs. There's no yes or no. Every time you say, I don't need a negative ballad, it'll never work. I will never, it's never going to work at radio. And then if you hear a song like If I Die Young, the Van Perry song, you're like, oh my God, it's working great, and it's sold, and it was a huge needle changer for that band. So
talk to me about that, though, because that is a common thing that people hear. Don't write a ballad. Don't write a sad song. Don't write anything that stops the radio dial for 3 minutes and makes people have to think and sink down into their feelings. Keep it up. Keep it fast. Keep it moving. But then the songs that always win Song of the Year are The House That Built Me, If I Die Young, In Color, Jamie Johnson, all these.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Deep, heart-wrenching songs. I mean, the song Keith Urban just put out, Female. It's like these are the songs that stop people in their tracks. But to actually get them on the radio and to be a single is so hard. Why is that? Because they are the songs that are so important.
I think I don't know the answer to that. If I knew the answer to that, I'd have more cuts. But
because it feels though like they should be the songs that are getting cut because everyone loves them.
Just when you think a song shouldn't come out or a ballad, one comes out, like that Cam song a few years ago.
Oh, Burning House.
It's like, we don't need a female artist, and we definitely don't need a female with a ballad. Oh, really? You really don't? Yeah.
Why is it so hard to get a ballad up? And then why is it so hard for females right now?
Well,
the tides are changing. There's a whole world movement happening.
To me, the female thing, thank God, is changing now, and there are other artists that are super talented breaking through. The ballad thing, I think it's just society. Like, you just have to go stand in line at a grocery store. People can't pay attention for 10 seconds without looking at their phone, or or they can't. So a slower song, the radio people have proven that people are changing the station unless it's a big monster act or it's one of those very rare songs. But if it's a non-needle moving ballad, it's really difficult. I mean, we've had luckily a lot of successful ballad singles here that have changed people's careers and lives. But I will still tell my writers we need some more tempo, because there's a lot of a lot of artists that always need tempo. That's just, it's more difficult to write a song. It seems, just my experience opinion, the faster the tempo, the tougher the subject matter. Does that make sense?
The faster the tempo,
you get up to 130 and above, and you are just, for whatever reason, it's harder to write. It's way easier to write those mid-tempos, which sometimes radio calls ballads. We call them mids, but radio refers to them as ballads. And but every time I say that, I was lucky enough to get a song in my email one night, and I sent it out that night to Keith, and like 3 weeks later he tracked it, and 3 weeks later it was a single. It was a number one, a 2-week number one called Break on Me. And I think the real magic to that one was John and Ross, who wrote it, John Knight and Ross Copperman, but Ross did an amazing track. But it was John's story. If you read about it, John was discussing with his wife about his daughter leaving to go to college. So you really, if you know that story, when you listen to the song, yes, he made it work for radio. He de-Johned it a little bit, but to me, the reason why that song resonated so well was because it was a real story.
It brings me to another point. Do you think consumers, listeners, know when it's real and know when it's not? Or do you think they care?
Yes and no. I don't think they always care, because everybody always wants it to relate to them, or they just want to sing the chorus. Man, a lot of songs, if you go to these shows, people just want to sing the chorus. If you go to a John Party show,
you want to have a party.
If you go to one of his shows and Head Over Boots comes on, by God, that chorus, you better have cotton in your ears or be ready for it, because when they start singing that, you'll be knocked off your seat because it's so loud. They just want to sing along, and that song was the perfect feel, fun, just sing along song.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always have to be a ballad about some emotional moment, which it can be, but that's just having fun.
Well, and you know what? I think about this with life. When I think about what I want to think about and experience, I don't want to experience sad stuff all the time. Like maybe about 25% of my life, I'm cool to touch into that. But like for the majority, I do want to be happy and I do want to feel good. So that makes sense that the majority of songs, most people want to feel good most of the time.
Correct.
And so that balance actually makes sense to me. Like no one just wants to sit there and listen to sad songs all day and feel sad all day. So it kind of is like a delicate balance. Okay, let's put a great ballad in. Let's really go for this one that we believe in. And radio, maybe all can band together and go for it, but it can't be the normal because no one wants to sit in their car and cry all day.
It's exactly right. When you're sitting in your house watching TV at night and you hear Sarah McLachlan start singing,
and those animals come on the commercials.
So you flip the channel like everybody else does
Kills
because
my heart.
it hurts your heart. You can't watch those. Once you watch it once, you can't watch it again because it's too painful. So I think you're right on some of that. People flip the channel to, another song.
I actually had never thought of it that way before because I'm always like, some of these best songs never get heard, but really, radio doesn't want to just depress their listeners all day.
Yeah, I mean, I know radio. They have their own challenges, and they do a great job with playing our stuff. So we're really thrilled with whenever they do play it, and we just try to give them something that will help their listeners stay engaged and listen.
Do you think the tides are turning for females in country music?
I think the tides have turned. I think there's not only ones that have come out recently that have had chart successes, but there's other ones in the pipeline that are about to come out that are really good, really different and unique. I think, like anything, we're in a copycat business, just like sports. When some sort of sports thing works, other teams copy it to try to do it. We copied one of my best friends and mentors in the business told me once when he was running a label that he said, basically the last X number of females that have come in have either been Carrie, Taylor, or Miranda, copycats. And it's like, that's already done. I need something different. So I think there was a period of time where there was a lot of copycatting. And now there's a new crop of fantastic female artists that are different, unique, and they have their own voice in terms of both lyric and what they sound like. And I think it's about to change.
And I think people have now realized that the copycat thing doesn't really work. Like, I mean, you can maybe slide one in, but even the ones who are copycatting still have to be their own thing.
Correct. Yeah, it makes it hard all the way around.
Yeah. So how did you get into this business? Did you always know that you wanted to be the song publisher guru of the world?
How long? I mean, how much detail do you? I'll skip. I'll make it super fast.
Okay.
So I moved here in June of '94, and
how old are you?
I was already graduated college,
okay.
So I didn't go to Belmont or MTSU. So I just came down here because I loved music, and I was a salesman. All my jobs have been selling, so I was hoping to combine my sales skills and music skills or whatever. And so I moved down here, didn't know anybody. Spent a year or so just trying to get in the door somewhere. And in the fall of '95, the spring of '95, I went to a couple of temp agencies, and I just said, hey, if it's any job, cutting the lawn, taking the garbage out, anything, just get me in the door and I'll do the rest. And I got a call from a temp agency to work in a finance department at RCA Records, and it was a 2-day assignment, and I went there, and the head of the department had just moved down here from New York, and me being from New Jersey, we hit it off, and it turned out to be a 2-day thing, turned out to be from April all the way till Labor Day of that year, and during that time, I found out what music publishing was. I always read liner notes, but I never knew what publishing.
Right. Who knows what a publisher is unless you're in the industry?
No one knows what publishing is. And so when I figured out what it was, I found out there was a publisher looking for a job, looking for a person. So I went on the interview with them, and we hit it off, and I got the job. It was a small publisher, but we had the lead singer of Lone Star was signed there, Richie McDonald. So that was great. Richie's a great guy. And then luckily about 9 months later, the person who I replaced at this job had moved to Zomba Music Publishing, and then they were moving to another place, and they told the person at Zomba, Mike Hollinsworth, about me. I was able to go over there and get that job for 5.5 years, and then on to EMI after that. So it was a matter of, it's like you said, the fickle finger of fate. If I hadn't have went on this interview, if I hadn't have met, the plugger's name was Bart Butler, who ironically now produces John Party. And he's the one who got me my job.
People stick around in this industry. That's one thing I realized. You either stick around or you don't. Correct.
You got to be willing to be through the thick and thin. And it's crazy. It's crazy how the fickle finger of fate works.
Did you ever have a moment where you wanted to give up and quit?
There was one weird moment in my career where right after Zamba, the same month, I got a call from two bigger publishers at the time, and I took a job with a publisher, and they said that the company wasn't going to sell, and it did. And so I'm engaged to be married, I'm about to buy a house, and I'm about to be out of a job.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, that was thrilling. And so
what's going on in your head?
Panic. And so luckily, of the two jobs that I had to pick from, when I picked the wrong one, I went back to the other one, and Gary Overton, thank God for Gary. I thank God for him because he hadn't filled the position yet, and so I was able to start at EMI, and it worked out really well. Gary also from New Jersey, so we hit it off great too.
So this goes back to your original thing when you see you need no, I don't know if you call it a white flag or a red flag. You also really didn't have a backup plan. Like, you could probably go back to sales and do whatever, and I'm sure you could find a job, but like, you were going all in with this music industry.
I went from selling financial products and making an incredibly good living in New Jersey to a $9 an hour temp job. I mean, I was living like a pauper.
So you wanted this.
Yes, I lived like a pauper for quite a while, and then yes, you have to start out. You've got to swallow your pride. You've got to put your ego in your pocket and zip it shut, and just make people believe in you and make people want to work with you.
Why was it worth risking your financial high-dollar job to come work a temp job for $9 an hour? Why was that something that was crucial for you?
In my mind, I knew that was the only way that I was getting in. I didn't go to music college. I didn't have an internship.
But why wouldn't you just settle for a regular life?
I don't. That's a great question. I don't know. At the time, I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. It was just me. So it kind of was. I'd saved up some. I had a reserve of some money, so I was able to do some things. But I don't know. I just didn't want to. I love it. Once you get bit by this music bug, it's hard to get unbit.
Do you think we all have a calling? Like, that we all have this thing that's inside of us telling, like, as a North Star in a way that, like, lets you know what you need to do?
That's a great question because...
what told you needed to do this?
Honestly, the thing that changed my life was hearing The Gambler on the radio when I was a little kid, and it was AM country because New Jersey didn't get FM country till the mid '80s, and I just always remember that. That's why I have that album on the wall over there of The Gambler, because that's the song that I feel like that's the reason I'm in Nashville.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because I was like, before that, my dad would listen to like Gene Autry and Roy Rogers and Eddie Arnold, and it was like, for like an 8-year-old kid, it was torture to hear yodeling cowboys. So I was like, oh my God. And then I heard The Gambler, and I was like, God, this is cool. This is like a cool song, the story, and I loved it. And of course, it was one of the biggest songs ever. But that's in my personal path. I think that's the song that changed everything.
What is the best advice that you've ever gotten?
The best advice. I mean, I don't know if I can think of a specific time, but it's basically, you got to be all in this business because it's not like a 9-to-5 job. You got to be willing to do like the one guy in town, Dave Ramsey, says, if you want to have a job like nobody else does, you have to be willing to do things that nobody else will do. Mm-hmm. You've got to be willing to do things that will get you to cross that finish line. And I feel like I was able to do that. And, a few key moments here and there that worked out great for me. And,
Yeah. What is a piece of advice that you would give your younger self, that you would tell your younger self now looking back about maybe like what not to worry about, or what would you tell your younger self now that you know?
I think that, that's a good question. I think that, geez, well, you just kind of stumped me here.
What do you wish you would have known when you were younger that you know now after all of these years of being in this industry, seeing all this stuff, and you see all these new kids coming in fresh, green-eyed, all this stuff, like what?
Well, I can tell you what, I think me having the sales background prepared me for this job more than anything could have. I think me being the youngest of 6 prepared me for having this job more than I knew. Having to battle at my house, having 6 kids in one bathroom set the stage for me having to battle my whole life.
What's your technique for battle? Because some people are like, they get mad, or their ego, or they're like I feel like you have such a light humor about you that I feel like you have figured out how to navigate in a way that you get what you want, but you don't ever offend anyone.
Here's the thing. Well, not many, but a few. But I think honestly, in this business, it's such a finite group of people. You can never. Here's advice for everybody.
Okay.
You can never, ever turn somebody to the point where they won't work with you anymore, because you never know where they'll end up. So in other words, if you get mad at another publisher because they canceled a co-write, they did whatever, some petty thing, and then you shut them out, well then, 2 years later they're working in A&R and they won't take your meeting.
Yeah.
So it's such a small town, you need to just take it with a grain of salt, and then when you hang the phone up when no one's listening, that's when you go off on it. And then you pick the phone up and you set up a co-write and you move on.
And then you just let it go.
We always
don't sweat the small stuff.
Don't sweat the small stuff. We always talk about what's the end game. If I do this negative thing, what's the end game? There's no positive. So what's the point? What's the point of ticking somebody off to the point where they're not going to want to work with you anymore? Whether it's an artist, whether it's another publisher, whether it's another writer, there's no point.
So you believe in the power of positivity?
Absolutely, yes.
Like, you believe that
yes.
That's a crucial thing for success.
I think you've got to be positive. You gotta when you get a 3-minute miracle and you go to play it for the music user, you gotta be like, this is gonna change your life. You gotta get them in the right frame of mind. That's why I'm not a huge fan of just MP3ing a song to somebody, and I've had successes with it, but it's not my favorite thing to do.
I agree. You want the experience, ahead of time, talking, being there, the energy.
Rusty Gaston and I kicked down Scott.
Another great publisher.
Yes, we kicked down Scott Borchetta's door one day with a brand new Rhett Peach Picker song called. It was actually Rhett and Ben Hazel. We kicked down the door with Honeybee, and we were just bouncing off the wall, and he bounced off the wall, and it just worked out great. And I think you've got to do that. I think you got to be positive. You got
have enthusiasm for what you believe in.
Yes. This business is so hard. Like, we call it the 99 no business, because you get songs cut and they don't make the record. You get songs on hold and they come off hold. You get songs that are supposed to be singles and they're not singles. So
there's letdown after letdown after letdown, but then you get your 3-minute miracle. So
Correct.
It makes it all worth it.
Correct. There's certain moments in your career where you get these things that aren't supposed to happen, and they do, and it's awesome.
What has the music industry taught you about life?
There's no guarantees. There's nothing given to you. There's no easy way. You just have to want it more than the guy next to you or the girl.
What do you think, we're going really philosophical for a second, what do you think the point of this life is for all of us? Like, what are we doing here? And why are we doing it?
Well, I think that changes as your life changes. I think for me now, it's basically trying to provide for my family and provide for my kids and try to give them a chance to make it in life, whatever they want to do. So I think it changes. I think when you're single, or if you're, different periods of your life, it depends on what you're doing. So I think it's a matter of where you are in your life.
What has being a father taught you?
It's hard. It's the hardest thing. No matter what anybody ever tells you, it is so hard. It's great.
What is so hard about it? Everyone says it's so hard and it's so great. That's what everyone says. It's the hardest thing, but it's the best thing. What does that mean?
Somebody told me words of wisdom one time. You'll never love anything so much or want to kill it at the same time. But then you get moments. It's kind of like being a song plugger. You get these who spilled this ice pop on the floor and I just stepped in and I stuck my foot in it? And who left the garbage out? The dog pulled it out. And who did this? And then they show you an A on a paper, 100% or something, or you go to a sporting event and they do something great, or you get that, and that makes it all better.
Is it? Yeah. What is it? What has it taught you about yourself?
Well, I hope it's taught me a little more patience. Sometimes I don't have as much as I should, but I think you have to just pick your battles. You can't, it's either the sticky floor, the open garbage can, or the leaving the empty box of cereal in the pantry. You can't pick all three. You've got to pick one of them. So you got to just either pick the garbage up, clean the floor, and then yell at them for the open cereal box.
That's funny. It's called balance. It's called balance.
Yes,
Hashtag balance.
Hashtag balance.
I love that. Okay.
And then get a dog, because they always are perfect every time you come home. They just can't wait for you.
I know. They're so happy.
So happy every time you come home, whether your kids are in a bad mood or whatever, because they got to do homework or they got to take a shower tonight because I haven't taken a shower in 3 days. And it's like, come on, dude, you're going to have to shower tonight. And then the dogs are just happy to be there.
Unless you have my dog that pees all over the floor, but I still love her so much.
Sometimes my son will do that, but no, I'm just kidding.
I mean, tomato. Okay, we're gonna wrap up, but I always like to end my interviews with leave your light. So just leave some inspiration after everything that you have seen, processed, experienced, done, learned, been involved with. What do you want other people to know? Like, what is the light that you want to share?
Don't let anybody ever tell you can't do it. Don't let anybody ever tell you you're not good enough. Don't let anybody ever try to change your path, because everybody has an opinion and everybody's right and everybody's wrong. So don't let anybody's one opinion change you.
And it's easy to be affected, especially by people who have like powerful roles, who they tell you this is how it is. It's easy to think that they know.
Yeah, I think I hear all the time where successful artists and writers will come in and they'll say specific names. So-and-so said, I'd never make it. And one guy was like, I think I'm going to deliver them. I have 3 number 1 plaques now. I'm going to get duplicates made and deliver them to the person that said I'd never make it. And so you'll never find one person in this town that I've ever told that can't make it. Even if in my heart of hearts I really thought they couldn't, I don't know what's in their heart of hearts, really. I don't know if they're going to just somehow change, somehow just refocus, somehow create a 3-minute miracle in the middle of the night, in the middle of a snowstorm or in the middle of a rainstorm or whatever. So you'll never find anybody that I've ever said, you need to quit and go home.
I agree with you.
I've never said that.
I don't feel like I would ever feel comfortable saying that to anyone either, just because when you see all the different people that have made it in all the different ways, it's like, how could anyone know?
I know. I've seen it personally with
you
other
can have
people.
Feelings. Like, you can have your feelings like,
Yeah.
I don't get it, but
Yeah.
go fight, win to you.
For 8 or 9 years, we used to have a monthly poker game, and believe it or not, there were tons of writers and artists that came and went in those games. And there were several months where Luke Bryan would come and play, and he was just a nice guy from Georgia, had a publishing deal, didn't have anything else going on, and he's the biggest star in our format. And I mean, always thought he was a great guy, always knew he had the personality, always in a great mood, but I would have never known that he was going to be the biggest star in our format.
Right.
So you just have to keep that in mind. No matter who's sitting on your couch or you're meeting or sitting across having a cup of coffee with or whatever, you just have to give them advice if they ask for it, or give them a little advice even if they don't ask for it. But I never have told anybody. I've never told anybody to go home.
I think that's amazing, and I think that's why everyone loves you, Tom, and why
Mostly everyone.
But truly, it's nice to be around people who just leave it open for the person to decide what they're going to do with their life, because no one knows. We
just had a guy come in last week that we met with several years ago, and we didn't do a deal with them, and now we're doing a deal with them. So just like you said before, maybe people's situations have changed. Maybe they've grown as an artist, as a writer, and now, so 3 years ago doesn't matter anymore. Now all that matters is right now. Exactly. And that's why, like you said earlier too, for an artist or someone that's inspiring, never take it personal, never burn a bridge. I think that is so smart. It's just not worth it. If you walk out of a publishing company and you didn't get a deal or you didn't get the answer you want, just thank the person, get to your car, and then swear as much as you want with the windows rolled up as you're driving away, and then just go to your next meeting and do the same thing and just keep writing and put your head down and keep writing and writing. It's like a golf swing. The more you practice it. And don't you feel like most people have to go through lots of failures and like lots of defeats before they actually get to the Holy Grail? And even when you get to the Holy Grail, you still got to deal. It's a whole nother set of problems. Correct. Just getting a publishing deal is when the work starts. That's when it actually gets hard. Yeah. A lot of people think that's the end game, and the people that think, the small percentage that think that's the end game, usually they don't pan out. Yeah. But yeah, most artists have gotten no's. Most artists have gotten no's from labels. Yeah. And I heard Terry Clark say a really cool thing back in the day, and she said, I didn't need everybody to say yes. I just needed one person to say yes. Yeah. And she went on to have whatever 10 or 15 number ones or whatever she had, because one record executive said yes to her.
And you just can't worry about the no's.
Who cares about the no's?
You just need one yes.
Correct.
Tom Luteran in the house.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you so much for joining me. You have so much wisdom. I love it.
A little bit.
A lot of it. Tom Luteran.